नारायणा 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 जानकी वल्लभ नारायणा जानकी वल्लभ नारायणा जानकी वल्लभ नारायणा जानकी वल्लभ नारायणा। हरे राम 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे राम हरे हरे राम हरे हरे सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः।
Welcome to Satsang. Welcome to Satsang. We'll start with a few minutes of meditation. So just wherever you are, there's plenty of space. Find a place that is comfortable, where you're not touching anything on any of your sides, and a position in which your breath can flow freely. Take a moment and draw the awareness to the breath. Allow your consciousness to merge with your breath. As it flows in and flows out. Draw the awareness not to your breath in your chest, which is where most of us breathe from, but not high up in the chest. Instead, draw the awareness to your breath low in the abdomen, below the navel. Find that place about 2 inches below the belly button. Called the Swadhisthana chakra. Draw the awareness of the breath there. And as you inhale and exhale, keep the awareness of the breath at that place, just a few inches below the belly button. On the next inhalation, allow the breath to rise. So instead of breathing horizontally in and out like a balloon, inflating and deflating, instead of that, as you inhale, allow the breath to rise through the solar plexus, up through the rib cage and lungs, through the throat, all the way up to your third eye center, the Agya chakra, just between the eyebrows. And then let it go. Exhaling back down. And if you can't bring the breath all the way up to your third eye center on one smooth, unbroken inhalation, don't worry. Just bring it as high as you can, smoothly, comfortably, and then let it go. But be sure to drop back down to that Swadhisthana chakra, to that center, that energy center, just below the navel, above the groin. Rising higher and higher on each inhalation, carrying that breath closer and closer to your third eye center, and dropping down deeper and deeper on each exhalation, back down into the core of the self. If you find that the mind wanders, you can add a very simple mantra. You can chant so on the inhalations and hum on the exhalations silently to yourself. So hum. It means I am that. I am one with the universe. I am that to which I pray. I am that upon which I meditate. I am that. So hum. If thoughts come, sensations come, don't worry about it. Don't try to fight them away, but don't allow yourself to get distracted by them. Just allow them to blow quickly across your consciousness, like clouds blowing across a blue sky on a windy day. And draw the awareness back to your breath as it rises higher and higher on each inhalation. Bring the hands together at chest level and gently rub the palms against each other. Place the palms of your hands over your closed eyes. Open the eyes into the palms of your hands and lower your hands. So we'll begin as always with a question that's come in advance, and then I'm happy to open it up to any question that anyone here may have. What is the need of spirituality in modern days? We actually have a bunch of good questions in advance. What is the need of spirituality in modern days? The need of spirituality has always been the same. These days we have more to distract us than perhaps our great-great-grandparents did. But maybe not. Maybe smartphones and iPads and traffic is not the only distraction. Maybe our great-great-grandparents were worried about the harvest, there being enough food on the table, covering themselves in winter and being able to stay warm, making a fire to cook the evening food. Who knows? But regardless of what the source of the distraction is, we've always been distracted. iPads and smartphones did not invent distraction. And the reason that we know that is when you go back to the scriptures, when you go back to the teachings of yoga and teachings of spirituality, they were talking about the monkey mind long before anybody had even a television set, let alone a smartphone. These teachings predate the Industrial Revolution. They predate everything that we think of as modern times. And yet they were talking about the monkey mind. And so what we realize is that we simply have more ways to be distracted. Perhaps we have a greater variety of things to distract us, but we've always been distractible. It's not that our ancestors were really good at meditating because they had nothing to distract them, but now we need answers. And again, I'm not speaking because I've got some kind of vivid recollection of my past life hundreds or thousands of years ago, but because we have scriptures that we know are thousands of years old that we're talking about the monkey mind. So when we talk about the importance of spirituality, the importance is the same in modern times as it was in old times. Because not only are we just as prone to distraction, but we're also just as prone to anger, greed, lust. And again, the way that we know that is that the scriptures are telling us how to deal with anger and greed and lust and all of these problems that we face today. Our scriptures, again, from thousands of years ago, are telling us how to deal with these enemies of our peace of mind. So when we ask why do we need spirituality in modern times? Well, we need spirituality in modern times for the exact same reason that we needed spirituality thousands of years ago. Because whether we are dealing with agricultural issues, whether we are dealing with issues of coldness in the winter, regardless of what we are dealing with, let's do one thing. We'll just stop for a moment. All of the people who are coming in, if the rest of you could maybe move up. And those of you who are coming in, if you could just make sure that your mobiles are on silent.
But yes, again, just make sure your phones are on silent.
Yeah, please, that'd be fantastic. Thank you so much. Wonderful. So the first question that we're speaking about is, what is the need of spirituality in modern times? We're talking about how spirituality in modern times, the need is the same as the need has always been for spirituality. Because as humans, whether we are distracted with protecting our little area, our cave, our hut, our plot of land, our children, our animals, or whether we're distracted because of our smartphones or our computers or our emails or the stock market or the traffic, whatever it is, the human mind is distracted. The human mind is prone to anger, prone to greed, prone to lust. These are not symptoms only of modern times. This is the human condition when it forgets who it is. And so spirituality is the way of going back to who we are. There's two ways of dealing with the world, of looking at the world, two very simple ways. One is the materialistic approach. Materialistic approach says, I am matter. I am flesh, I am blood, I am bones, I am this physical package. It weighs a certain amount, it's a certain height, it's a certain color, it's got certain measurements, it's been around for a certain number of years, so I'm the 1971, American model. Everyone's going to be a different model of when we were manufactured, where we were manufactured, what place we were manufactured in. But that's just the vehicle. But the material way of looking at the world is to say, I'm the 1971 American version. I'm the female version. I'm my history. Here's what I've been through. Here's what I've learned. Here are my degrees. Here are my struggles or my achievements, either way. Some of us tend to identify a lot more with our achievements. Some of us tend to identify a lot more with our struggles. But either way, here's my history. We identify as our relationship. So this vehicle, this flesh and bones and blood, is in relationship with other packages of flesh and bones and blood. So I'm the wife of that package, or the mother of that package, or the daughter of that package, right? You see that flesh and bones and blood over there? Well, I'm his wife. See that flesh and blood and bones over there? Well, I'm his mother. Okay, so that's the materialistic way of looking at the world. We're all just this flesh, bones, blood, and where it's been and what's happened to it, what it's good at, how much money certain people are prepared to pay it for whatever it's good at. Materialistic view. The problem with that view, aside from the shallowness of it, aside from the difficulty of it in so many other ways, is that it separates us. Because if I'm over here, if I'm this package of bones and flesh and blood over here, and you're that package over there, then we're separate. And as we've been speaking about today so much as we talk about yoga, we're actually one. And so if I'm attached to this materialistic view, I'm separate from the world. It's all just about me here. What I need to do is up to me. What I suffer and go through is all about me. My career and everything is me in competition with other people. It's me or them. One raise to be had, one promotion to be had, one corner office to be had. We're all in competition. So it's this separation. The other way of looking at the world is the spiritual viewpoint, which says, okay, you have a body, you have flesh, you have blood, you have bones, but you're not it. That isn't who you are. Who you are is spirit. Who you are is soul. Who you are is consciousness. And that other one over there, well, yeah, she also has flesh and blood and bones, and they weigh a certain amount and occupy a certain amount of space, and were manufactured a certain number of years ago in some particular place. But that's not who she is. She's spirit. She's soul. She's consciousness. And there actually is no place that I end and you begin. And that's what spirituality is. And so when we talk about the need of spirituality in the modern world, well, as I said, it's the same as the need of spirituality in every world. Because in every world, in every time throughout history, we have identified as the body. And again, the reason we know that, I'm a scientist by heart, so I'm always looking for proof. The reason we know that, scriptures given to us thousands of years ago say, you are not the body. Well, if everybody knew that, Bhagavan Krishna would not have to emphasize that to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra and give us the Bhagavad Gita thousands and thousands of years ago. So what we know is people at that time, and at every time since, because we keep getting these messages. We get them in the Mahabharata, we get them in the Ramayana, we keep getting them. Every saint, every sage emphasizes, you're not your body. You have a body, but you're not the body. So clearly throughout history, even though we've had revolutions in industry, we've had revolutions in technology, we've had so many types of revolutions, but we haven't yet had a spiritual revolution. And so we need that revolution to help us understand who we really are. And so that's the importance of spirituality. And the last piece of that is that we suffer. And we've always suffered. The anger, the frustration, the jealousy, the unfulfilled desires. Again, we know we've always suffered from them because they're in all of our scriptures. So these are not inventions of the modern age. We've always suffered. And the reason that we suffer is because of this identification with the body, because of this materialistic viewpoint. And so what spirituality does when it says you're not your body, well, what that means is you're not your bank account, you're not the color of your skin, you're not your relationships, which means that if you've got a problem in your relationships, the mother-in-law, daughter-in-law dilemma, or the spouse dilemma, or the parent-child dilemma, or the lack of a spouse dilemma, or whatever relationship dilemma you're in, you're not that relationship. You're not your emotions. So you're not your anger. You're not your frustration. You're not your sadness. You're not any of those that you feel. If we went around here, and we won't, don't worry, I don't pick on people, but if we went around and every one of you said what it is that's causing you to suffer in your life, they would all have something to do with the physical body. So whether it's actually a physical thing, an ache or a pain or an illness, aging, an aspect of your body, whether it's an aspect of this physical body's role. So I don't have the job I want, or I'm not getting paid the money I want, or this relationship is a problem. Or it would have something to do with that which goes on in your brain. My anger, my jealousy, my alcoholism, my drug addictions, my competition, my anxiety, my restlessness, whatever it is. It would be something that goes on in your physical brain, some chemical, electrical pattern in the brain that we identify as, depression, anger, sadness, restlessness. But all of those are aspects of your physical body. They're aspects of matter, including the chemical and electrical reactions in your physical brain. And so it's that identification as the body that causes suffering. And so the solution to that suffering is spirituality. Because when we realize, I'm not the body, I'm not the history, I'm not the relationships, I'm not what I look like, I'm not how much money I make, I'm not my role in society. I'm spirit, I'm consciousness, I'm soul. I'm infinite, I'm complete. There's nothing I need. There's no hole I have. There's no incompleteness I have. Who is there to be jealous of? When we connect on the spiritual level, well, we're all one. So who's separate? What is there to covet? What is there I need? What is there to long for? What is there to be angry about? So suddenly all of that inner suffering dissipates. I'll share with you my favorite joke on the subject, which is the joke of the man who goes to the doctor and he says to the doctor, there is something very wrong with me. Whatever I touch, it hurts. When I touch my head, it hurts, and I touch my stomach, it hurts, and I touch my back, it hurts, and I touch my knee, it hurts. So the doctor is very confused because typically people come with one complaint, a headache or a stomach ache or a backache or a knee pain. And this guy, everything hurts. So after he runs every test and every scan, he says to the guy, well, the good news is there's nothing wrong with your head or your back or your stomach. The bad news is, your finger is broken. So, since your finger is broken, naturally, whatever you touch, it hurts. But it hurts not because the problem is in the stomach or the head or the back or the knee, but because the finger is broken. Because that connection of the bone in the finger is broken. And I love that joke because our lives hurt, as we've just been talking about. But we blame all this stuff outside. And actually that source of pain is my broken connection to my true self, to the truth of who I am. And so what spirituality is it reconnects me to that. And it doesn't matter what path you go in. It doesn't matter what religion you go in. It doesn't matter what name or form of the divine you use to go in. What matters is just reconnect. Get connected. when you get connected, doesn't mean that life won't happen. Life will always happen. I always say spirituality is not an inoculation against bad things happening. Things still happen. Your loved ones will still get sick and pass away. You'll still get fired from your job. Your house could still burn down. It's not that. But you, when you're connected spiritually, will not lose yourself when life happens. Because you'll be moving through the world with that intact inner connection. So, before taking any of our other questions that came in advance, I'm happy to open it up to any questions here. Yes, Nitin.
How to train our mind? The context in which I'm asking is that I can understand training our senses maybe, not taking them to a place or maybe taking them to a certain place. But how to train this mind? For example, they say love all.
How do you do that? Yes, okay. So it's a great question because, sadly, most of us are way too content to not train our minds. When most people start meditating or even just embark on a spiritual path or even just sit down to do some work, to read a book, to do a project, I cannot tell you how many times I hear some variety of, oh, well, I can't do that because my mind just is too restless. Or, oh, I can't do that because my mind just jumps around too much. Or my mind won't be still. But it never occurs to us to actually spend the time training the mind. And it's tragic because, if I sat here in front of you and as I was talking to you, my arms started going like this. And as we were talking, my arm just went like this. And I said to you, oh, don't worry about that. That's just my silly arm. Yeah, it does that sometimes. You'd think, that woman is crazy. Arms aren't supposed to do that. Or if I stood up and I started just jumping up and down and I said, oh, don't worry about that. Those are just my crazy legs. They do that sometimes. You'd say, this woman needs a doctor. Arms, legs, they're supposed to be under our control. They're not supposed to just flail all over the place. So we know that we need to be able to control our arms, our legs, our tongue. Things shouldn't just slip out of our mouths. We know that. But our minds, we're all too content to just say, oh yeah, wo to man to aisa hai. But yes, how do we train the mind? Because we should. We need to. The mind actually is a much more powerful muscle, organ, tool, however you think about it, than our arms or our legs. Because even if you've got arms that work fine and legs that work fine, if your brain doesn't work fine, you still can't move your arms and your legs properly. So actually the brain is that which moves everything. So how do we control that? Well, the first thing is, when most of us go into the training the mind, we tend to go in with an iron fist. And we go in as this very strong disciplinarian. Our mind is running all over the place, and we go in like the principal of a kindergarten on their first day of work, right? So there's 100 5-year-olds running around, and you've got this iron fist. And we go in like that. Stop, sit, 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 stop, stop, stop. Not the way. Your mind is your friend. And your mind is part of you. Not your highest self, not your soul, but it's part of you. And so you don't want to go in and wage war against any aspect of the self. I'm deeply against any concept of fighting within the self. So don't go in with an iron fist. If things are coming up in your mind, desires, emotions, thoughts, feelings, memories. They're there for a reason. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to put them in the driver's seat of our life. It doesn't mean that we say, oh, I had a thought about that. Okay, I'm supposed to do it. But it means that we at least recognize it and realize, okay, it's there. And we see it with compassion, and we see it with love. Because the rule of an iron fist, here's an important rule of thumb for being a parent, for being a teacher, anybody working with actual children, and also for working with your mind. When you train with fear, you're only successful as long as you are standing there. So if you are in charge of a classroom of kindergartners, or the children in your own house, and you are ruling with an iron fist of fear and violence, well, as long as you stand there, the kids will do what you say, because they're afraid. But the minute you walk away, they're going to go back to being exactly how they were, because you haven't actually changed them. You've just terrified them. And that's not the way to work with the mind. So you don't want to go in and scare it into submission. You don't want to go in and make it feel bad. So don't go in and say, oh, bad thought, bad emotion, bad this, bad that. No. We work with it very gently. We work with it the way you would work with a child you love. Not a child you're trying to terrify. A child you love. The child runs over here, you... I'll beta, either beta. You're not going to scream at it. You're not going to whip it. Just, vapesa, either beta. And if the child runs too much, maybe you find that instead of just saying sit down, that if you take your hand and you kind of do like this on his head, that he's happier to sit still for a little while. And so we work gently with ourselves, with love with ourselves. And here's what's really beautiful with the mind. When you actually watch it, it slows down and stops. Now, this is a very subtle technique, but it's a very powerful technique. When you close your eyes to meditate, if you actually picture yourself literally turning your eyes upward to look at the brain, at the mind, literally you're going to stare at it. Not wait for thoughts to come, but literally I'm going to watch it. Okay, now do your thing. What you find is it stops. Like they say, a watched pot doesn't boil. A watched mind actually stops. And what I have found, and I share this from personal experience, what I have found is as long as I can hold my rapt attention on my own mind, I can actually keep it still. But the minute that I lose the attention on the mind, it starts to do its own thing. Like, I've got my child sitting here happily, but then I get distracted with a text message or a phone call, and now I'm over here, and the next thing I know, the kid has run over there. But as long as I'm here, doing this, patting, as long as I'm present, that child stays. So that's one way. But that requires a constant, rapt attention at the mind. But it's a very powerful technique when you sit down to meditate. I do it also before I sleep sometimes, if you find that the mind is just moving too fast to go to sleep. So if you literally turn the mind upon the mind, it stops. Another very powerful way of training the mind is mantra japa. So if you have a mantra, if you've been given a mantra by a guru, use it. If you haven't, don't worry. Choose a mantra. Choose a name of God. Choose a word. and recite it. Don't wait for your mind to wander to recite it. Prevention is the best cure. So chant the mantra anyway. But then when you do find that the mind wanders, you can use the mantra to just bring it back. But develop a practice every day of doing mantra jap. A certain amount of time sitting in your meditation, but then also while you're walking, while you do whatever you are doing. While you're sitting, do it with the mala. But when you're moving, you don't always need a mala in your hand. You can do jap silently in your mind. But just keep chanting the mantra, keep chanting the mantra. What'll happen is the mind will just become accustomed to that mantra. And the last piece is, there's a lot, but I'll stop with this suggestion. The last piece is, when you find that your mind has a particular tendency to go in a particular direction. So the two techniques I've given you so far are just for this jumpy monkey all over the place, doesn't sit still, no rhyme or reason type of mind. But sometimes we also find that our mind tends to always go in one direction, about one thing. And so maybe the mind is always going in judgment. Maybe wherever I move, I'm constantly judging. That person's stupid. That person's ugly. That person said the wrong thing. That person is doing this wrong. Doesn't that person know that those clothes look bad? Whatever it may be. But maybe I find that I'm constantly judging. Or maybe I find that I'm constantly criticizing myself. Maybe I find that as I move through the world, I'm constantly saying to myself, God, you're so stupid. Oh my God, I can't believe you said that. Oh no, you can't do that. You're not good enough to do that. Well, yeah, it figures you'd fail because anyway, you're a failure. Yep. Whatever it may be. Maybe I move through the world with greed. Maybe whatever I see, I decide, I need that. Oh, I need that. I need that. Oh, I need that also. That should be mine. Why don't I have that? We all have different types of tendencies. And so if you find that the mind always goes in one specific direction, work with the opposite. So for example, if you find that the mind is always going in judgment, then develop a technique that every time you meet someone, every time you see someone, before the mind can even judge, the second you meet them, you're going to think of something really good about them. The second you meet them, you're going to automatically think of something beautiful. Or, if you can take it a step deeper, if you want the advanced course, the second you meet them, can you see God in them? Search for God in them, the second you meet them. And that'll prevent the mind from doing the thing about they're stupid, they're ugly, they're this, they're that. Because if I'm searching for God, I'm not paying attention to their weight or their clothes or what they're doing. So whatever path you find the mind tends to go in, give it the opposite. If I'm judging, which is in separation, I'm standing apart, I'm pointing a finger of judgment in my own mind, well, walk in with union. Can you see the divine in them? If you find that you're walking through the world with greed, everything you see you want, and when you close your eyes to meditate, all the mind does is it thinks, oh, I wish I had that. Oh, I want that. Oh, I don't have enough of this. Well, then develop a practice of gratitude. As you move through your day, make yourself set an alarm on your phone. Every 15 minutes, that alarm will beep, and you need to think of something you're grateful for. In that moment, what are you grateful for in that moment? So you can give yourself practices that will actually undo those maladaptive, dysfunctional, harmful, suffering-causing sanskaras or neural patterns or ways of being or habits or however we think about them, by giving us the opposite. If you find that you're always telling yourself something bad about yourself, you're always criticizing yourself. You're stupid, you're this, you're that. Well, develop a practice. Develop an internal mantra. I am enough. I am whole. I am complete. I am divine. I am whole. I am complete. I am divine. I am whole. I am complete. I am divine. So that's 3 different practices, 2 of them for dealing with the jumpy monkey randomness, and 1 for dealing with the very specific negative pattern that my mind goes. Okay? Wonderful. Thank you. Yes. Namaskar.
As we are from the Indian society, we know that the hurt and hate will always be there. How, when we are leaving, how we should come to terms with this?
Okay.
And with that, if we know that we will die, the attachment what we have with our children, with our parents or spouses, how we disconnect us?
So, how do we come to terms with dying? And what do we do about these attachments? Well, the only way to really come to terms with dying is to realize that who you really are isn't going to die. Because otherwise, if I believe that who I am is this body, and I know I'm going to die, well, that means I am going to die. I'm going to be over. I'm going to be finished. And that's a hard thing to come to terms with. Even a mosquito, an ant, nobody wants to die. There's no creature on earth that's okay with dying. It says, yeah, okay, kill me now. The only way to do it is to realize who you really are is not dying. The body will get old. Hopefully. Some people leave their bodies before they're old, but generally the body gets old. The body gets worn out. We leave it behind, we get a new one. And again, sometimes people leave their bodies while they're still young and fresh and healthy, due to the whole karmic cycle that their soul is just done in this body. There's no more work to be done in this body, because the other important aspect of coming to terms with death is understanding why we're here, which is ultimately to attain enlightenment, to wake up, to have the truth of who we are, to have moksha, liberation. The point of life is not how many days I can squeeze into it, how much money I can make, how much fun I can have. The reason that we're given a human birth is because in a human birth, with a human consciousness, we actually can have enlightenment. We actually can wake up. We actually can have God realization, self-realization. That's why we're here. And so the whole karmic cycle of reincarnation and rebirth is there so that ultimately, eventually, as we clear our karmic bank accounts, that finally we can be done and not have to come back in a body and ultimately experience that oneness with the divine. That's the teaching. That's the philosophy. So that being said, the loss of the body is not the tragedy. The tragedy is living a really, really, really long time, but still not getting it right. Still not waking up. In the big scheme of it, that's a much greater tragedy, as my God, you had 100 years to wake up and you didn't manage. Not this one lived only 20 and their work was done. From the karmic soul perspective, the first is actually a much greater tragedy because they've lost the opportunity. In the second case, that person might be done. It's very possible that in their last birth they were almost done and just needed to come back for a few short years to work out a few last karmas. So it's important to realize why we're here. And that is to realize the soul, to realize who we are. And when you realize that, then death no longer is scary because you realize, well, I'm not going anywhere. Sure, my body is going somewhere. My way of identifying is going somewhere. My ego is going to go somewhere. But who I really am isn't. And so in terms of this attachment to our family, rather than trying to detach and love them less and push them away, rather than that, try to love. Focus on loving their soul. Focus on loving their spirit. Focus on loving their consciousness. Focus on having a soul-to-soul love. Because that's not going anywhere. Yeah, you'll die, they'll die, one of you will die first. But if the love and the connection is soul-to-soul, then even when the body dies, that connection is still there. And it doesn't mean it's easy by any means. It doesn't mean that death isn't a tragedy. It is. It doesn't mean we shouldn't grieve. We should. But it means that we realize that's not the ultimate end. And so we're able to move through our lives focused on really what our purpose is, rather than focused on just holding on to the body for as long as we can. So we were actually coming to a close. I'm going to start with yours tomorrow because I know you'll be with us tomorrow. Are you going to be with us tomorrow?
We are staying nearby. I have a question you answered only.
Okay.
The purpose of life. And when we realize it, we have kids, we have our own journeys. What is the purpose of life?
So the purpose of life is to wake up. The purpose of life is to realize who you are. That's why we're here. Now, our duty, and this is an important distinction, my purpose and my duty are different. So my purpose is to realize who I am, that I'm soul, I'm spirit, I'm divinity. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to attain moksha, enlightenment. I'm throwing around a lot of different words and terms because we all tend to identify and like a different term. But they all mean the same thing ultimately. They're all taking us to that same place of freedom. Internal freedom, not freedom from the body, but freedom in the body. Freedom from illusion. Freedom from the ego. Freedom from the bondage. So the ultimate goal is realize who you are. Wake up. Experience, not just intellectually, but actually experience your soul. Have that experience of who you are as soul, as spirit, as consciousness. That's what you're here for. Now, yes, we also have duties. And we have duties to family. We have duties in so many ways. We have, depending on our particular dharma, our particular life path, our duties are going to be very different. But the reason I mention this is it's important to realize that fulfilling my duty is very important. Must do it. It's the only way to start breaking through my karmic cycle. And it's not my purpose in life. And the reason I mention that is if the only thing we were supposed to do was wake up, well then the prescription would simply be sit down, close your eyes, and meditate till you get it. But in addition to that ultimate purpose, we also come onto earth with a dharma. We come onto earth with a duty, or several duties, different duties as we move through different phases of life. And we also have to fulfill those. And so our life becomes sort of this interweaving of doing my duty, fulfilling my dharma. And again, we may not necessarily just have one. We may have lots of them. You have a certain duty when you're a child, as the son or the daughter of your parents or the sibling of your sibling, as a student. You have different duties as you grow, different duties in different roles and relationships. But as I fulfill all of that, as I do all of that, ultimately I stay aware of my purpose. There's a beautiful way to remember this. When I first came to India, Pujya Swamiji gave it to me as the spirituality for dummies, basically. But it's very deep. It's just very simple. And so it's something that I have found my awareness of it has expanded as I've grown, as I've been here. But it was very helpful for me even in the beginning when I didn't know anything, which is engage yourself in karma. This was the prescription for the right life. Engage yourself in karma under the shade of Dharma with an awareness of Brahma. So whatever level of spiritual path you're on, this works. Engage yourself in karma, do your actions, do your duties, stay busy, fulfill those duties, fulfill your dharma, remember you're a tool in God's hands, keep acting. Under the shade of Dharma, but make sure all of what you're doing is under this shade of Dharma. And remember that ultimately, you're one with God. Ultimately, everything is God. Ultimately, there is nothing but God. Ultimately, it is all just God's perfection. And so if you can hold that, it'll help you as you move through these different questions and different phases. Lastly, yes, you. Yes.
My question is, how can we use the power of positivity, like everyone says, and bring it into our lives, and use it in the disturbance mind, or with the people, with the families, and
Great.
how can we, just use it in the whole.
So the power of positivity. It's a very, very powerful. I'm hesitating because there's actually also a story I'm going to tell you about it. But I'm going to give you a brief intro to it and then I'll tell you the story. So it's very important to be positive. This is the glasses half empty, glasses half full way of looking at life. Both are true, but the question is, which is a nicer way to live? You can't say the glass isn't half empty. But the question is, from the perspective of the glass is half empty, I suffer. From the perspective of the glass is half full, I rejoice. And so why not move through the world in a way that's allowing me to rejoice? However, on a spiritual path, more important than positivity is truth. And so here's the story. There was a very, very, very enlightened, divine, amazing saint who used to live right across the Ganga from us, named Pujya Swami Dayanandji Maharaj. And he was, I'm going to start to cry. I loved him so much. He left his body a few years ago, but he was just incredible. So he was here speaking at our International Yoga Festival one year. And this question came up. Similar variety of that, because there's a lot of teachings of just be positive, be positive, be positive, be positive. Power of positive thinking. And Swami Dayanandji Maharaj was very deep. One of the most enlightened, most brilliant Vedantic experts I've ever known, and especially in terms of being able to convey it in English. So in any case, so he was giving this talk in answer to the question on positive thinking. And he said, and he was very, very funny. And he said, he said, I have a friend. And he said, my friend is very fat. And my friend is very sick because he's very fat. And he has very high blood pressure and he has very high cholesterol. And his doctors have told him that he must go on a diet. And so one day I saw my friend, and my friend was eating a donut. And I said to him, hey friend, why are you eating a donut? You are fat, you are sick, your doctors have told you to go on a diet. How can you possibly be eating this donut? And my friend said to me, Swamiji, because I have started a practice of positive thinking. You see Swamiji, there are two parts of this donut. One part of the donut is this circular part that you are right. It is full of grease and sugar and fat and all the things I shouldn't have. But the other part of the donut is this hole in the center. And I'm focusing on the hole in the center instead of that ring on the outside, Swamiji. And so that's why it's okay for me to eat this, because I'm only focusing on the hole in the center. And I share that with reverence to Swami Dayanandji Maharaj, because it was by far the most brilliant way that I've ever heard of cutting through the problem with this concept of positive thinking in all circumstances, of sort of positive thinking being just the answer to everything. There's a lot of things in our life that we actually have to look at the truth of. And the problem with positive thinking as just a way of living is it actually glosses over a lot of truth that isn't so positive. And so if you walk down the street and you see people who are hungry and they're homeless and they're begging, and that hurts us and that causes us to suffer. Well, that suffering is actually a good thing, because that suffering is what makes us either hand them some money or send a check to some organization that's working for homeless people or poor people or sick people, or go out and start an NGO of our own, or build homes for poor people, or whatever we have the capacity to do. That suffering is actually a good thing. And the answer to the suffering is not to think positively about it and to think, well, I don't know exactly how you could think positively about it, but I'm sure we could come up with some really kind of superficial way. But that's not the answer. The answer is to actually live in the truth of that suffering and do something about it. Like the answer for this fat friend of Swamiji's was to stop eating donuts. Not to figure out a way to eat donuts and feel happy about them. The donuts are still going to kill him. whether he's focusing on the outer part or the inner part. And people who are hungry and poor and sick and homeless, and the environment that's being destroyed, and people who are killing each other, and all of these things that are happening in our world are actually things that we need to see the truth of. Similarly in ourselves. If I find, let's say I lose my temper at someone. Let's say I say something I shouldn't have said. Let's say I lie to someone, or I hit someone, or I do something that I know is wrong. Well, naturally, instinctively, I'm going to feel badly about that. That's a good thing. I should feel badly about that. Because that bad feeling is going to prevent me, hopefully, from doing it again the next time. I'm going to remember, oh yeah, that felt really bad. Wasn't worth it. Not going to do it again. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. Now, obviously, you don't want to spend the next 10 years of your life overcome by guilt. You don't need to, now go to therapy and need help for dealing with your guilt. But that pang of, I did the wrong thing, is what we call conscience. It's a good thing. You don't want to be able to say, oh, well, that slap actually was good exercise. Or figure out some way to positively think your way around what you did. And so I share this with you because, yes, it's much better to think the glass is half full than half empty. I'm all for that. In our relationships, it's much better to think about what we love about people than what bothers us about people. But in the rest of our life, in things that do need to be changed, it's really important to see the truth and not gloss over it superficially with just this concept of positive thinking. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask a question, because Modiji, when he addressed the Vedanta the first time after he became Prime Minister in his first term, he said, there's two types of people, one that sees the glass half empty, one that sees the glass half full, but I'm a third type of person that sees the glass full of water and full of sky, full of akash. And I wanted to ask, how do we cultivate, that's not necessarily, that's not negative thinking or positive thinking. What type of thinking is that, and how do we cultivate it?
I would say, actually, with that, I love that. I love that he said that. And in that case, what I would say is, in the situations that I gave, where positive thinking is not necessarily the answer, where the answer is truthful thinking, taking Modiji's example there and his leadership there, we could say, this homelessness, this poverty, this environmental destruction is wrong, unequivocally wrong, and what a wonderful opportunity for me to be able to do something about it. What a wonderful opportunity for me to be able to act. So that would be the full of akash. In addition, rather than thinking about it as half empty of water, is to see, okay, what's my opportunity?
Which is what I was thinking of. So
Yes.
how there's terrorism involved and how
We can work for it, exactly. Yes, absolutely. How all of these problems we spoke about that need us to see them as true. While the other aspect of that glass that we might see as empty and therefore negative is an opportunity for us to come together and work, come together and serve, to change who we are first, so that that can ripple out into the world. Absolutely. Yes.
That's why I'm here.
Fantastic. Welcome.
Because 23 years back I learned that thing on Ranga Dashara. That 23 years back you were here. And after 23 years I think I should be here.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Welcome. Welcome. So we actually are going to have to bring Satsang to a close. We've run about half an hour over. Are you going to be here tomorrow night? Fantastic. So we won't start with one on the paper in advance. We'll start with the two of you tomorrow night.